Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. After the busy Christmas period, it was time for the National Championships weekend this weekend, racing all across Europe and even around the globe as the Japanese National Championships took place. We will be discussing all of the races, some more extensively than others, and we will be starting by discussing the Dutch National Championships and in particular the women's race, since we believe that had the most competitive starting field. With me here to discuss the racing is Issam.
Yes, thank you for having me again.
I was on the ground in Zaltbommel, or should I say in the mud of Zaltbommel, because that Dutch National Championships was an absolute mudfest, especially for Dutch standards. Normally the courses in the Netherlands do not get this muddy, but they organized the National Championships in floodlands right next to the river, and this is meant to be an area that can flood in the winter when the water level of the river becomes higher as there's more rain and more melting snow in the Alps. And well, parts of the course flooded, they needed to shorten the lap, and in general there's been a lot of rain which led to an absolute mudfest. And in that mudfest we saw a battle between three riders, Puck Pieterse, Seenda Carmen Alvarado and Fem van Empel, on a course that was, well, I would say between 40 and 55% running. These three riders were together for half of the race, but then Puck Pieterse placed an attack. She had the technical upper hand over Alvarado and Van Empel, and eventually also had the physique upper hand. Pieterse opened a gap of 5 seconds. Her teammate Alvarado tried to keep it close, but Pieterse ultimately kept stretching that gap and took the national title in the elite category, because remember, this is her first race that she raced as an official elite. Behind that, Van Empel could not keep up with Alvarado for the rest of the race. In the final lap she had to let Alvarado go, and that meant that Alvarado took the silver medal, somewhat surprising, and Van Empel needed to settle for third. So, Issam, Pieterse, first race as elite, first win, in the mud, so much running. Do you think that Puck Pieterse was the favorite, or did she surprise you by taking the win here?
I think during the race it became more and more clear that Pieterse was going to be the favorite, the way she was riding. She definitely, the running is definitely not something that she's very good at, but it's not like a disadvantage in a way. She's able to, maintain quite a good pace in the running, and I think that overall today the way she was riding compared to Van Empel and Alvarado, it was clear that Pieterse was very strong. And yeah, I think during the race it became clear that Pieterse was going, was in contention for victory. And the moment when she went and put on the pace, she was, I would say, in control. The gap was good enough. And Van Empel, before the race, I would have said that Van Empel definitely was the one where this course was suiting a little bit more. But during the race, with Van Empel, it was just a bit off today. It was not the greatest of days for Van Empel. The running, there was not a lot of fire behind that. A lot of times dismounting too early from the bike, some mistakes. It was just not really her day. And that is something that we are seeing right now, the tendency of Van Empel not really having her day, not being at her best. It's repeating a little bit the last couple of, especially last week and the last couple of races, and yeah, it's interesting to see with the championships, the world championships coming up, if that will turn around. But for now, Van Empel was not great, and Pieterse was very good.
Yeah, Fem hasn't looked quite the same after that crash in Val di Sol. I mean, of course she looked very good in Baal, but we already said in the podcast about Baal that she had extra freshness, which really helped her. And we could already see in Kokzijde that she was struggling a bit there compared to Van Anrooy. And today, after again a not great race in Zonhoven, it was not great today. As you say, the running wasn't amazing, and in general it just didn't work out for her. If we look at Fem van Empel, her record on very muddy courses, it's been a bit up and down. I mean, she was 4th in 2020 in Dendermonde, and that was really the first wow performance that Sven Van Empel put in. Later that season, she became under 23 world champion. Last year in Dendermonde, it was not as good. She finished 11th, so that was outside of the top 10. On other heavy courses, well, those are more climbing courses, so I don't think we could really use that as a fair comparison. But no, I think Van Empel definitely disappointed a bit today. There are not many races like this. It's a bit atypical conditions. So, yeah, it was a bit surprising that she didn't end ahead of Alvarado. That was, for me, the biggest surprise, because Alvarado is known to not really like these type of courses with a lot of running and the constant tractor diesel efforts. But she did well today. In the final lap, she looked to come close on Pieterse. It wasn't that close eventually, but still. Alvarado 2nd, Brandt 6th. Brandt said she didn't have a good day, but normally I would have expected Brandt to be in the position where Alvarado was today. The running, the power, yeah, I would normally attach that to Lucinda Brandt, but today Alvarado proved that even on a course that doesn't necessarily suit her, her form is there. So that's at least my main takeaway, that Van Empel a bit disappointing and that Brandt and Alvarado somewhat swapped expectations for me.
I think that Alvarado's, if she is on a very good day, and I think today she, it was visible that she was on a good day, then these type of courses she can handle it quite okay. And with Brandt, it's also very difficult to maintain very good form after the return in a way, because probably the base was not really there. There were some, I think 2 weeks or something, where she didn't even touch the bike, so you then have to train, but it's then difficult to maintain a certain condition. And I think that that must have played a role, maybe a bit too many races under her belt after the return, and that's maybe costing her a little bit. You told me that she's already on the plane to Spain, probably to train, so I think for her it's now she will try to reset and train and be in the best form for the next coming weeks, because there is still some races left and some are more important, so we'll see what that will bring for Brandt.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a bad day on a course like this, well, it's going to be game over pretty quickly and you're going to lose a lot of time. Marianne Vos, another example of that. She did not find the course to her liking here. So much running, and there's a difference between training that you can run, like normal standards of running in cross, like maybe one running section, a climb, half a climb, a stairs or barriers. But here there was so much running, and keep in mind, if you watch this race, if you haven't, it's completely rewatchable on YouTube, on the YouTube channel of Omroep Gelderland. But this was Dendermonde-like, and they still removed so many sections of the course, either due to flooding or due to lap times becoming too long, which would else mostly have been running as well. So it was really, really torture for the riders, and almost all riders came across the finish line completely empty. And Puck Pieterse, well, she didn't have anything left in the tank, and that's why the announcers on course got a bit worried that Alvarado maybe was going to close in. She didn't. Pieterse deserved the win, and I don't think we can analyze too much here on this course. She had the technical advantage, and the physique picture looked just fine, as it has been the entire season. Shame Van Anrooy wasn't here. I think she could have clinched the title here, but be there or be square. Van Anrooy isn't here, so she misses it out. She needs to decide within a week if she wants to race Elite or under 23. So we will know after Benidorm what she is doing. I think for the rest, Betsema, bit of an improvement after a terrible Christmas period for herself in her own world. Vorst 5th, decent. If we look at the rest, Van Alphen 7th, Bakker 8th, Tauber 9th, Vos 10th. Don't think there's all too much to say, except that the gaps were huge. Vos in 10th was almost 7 minutes down. So, yeah, tough racing here, and we saw the same in the men's race, where we had a battle between Van der Haar and Nieuwenhuis, and that one went right to the line, didn't it, Issam?
Yeah, he did, and before the race we would have said that Van der Haar was probably not really in an advantage. Maybe a week before we would have said that Van der Haar was going to be the clear favorite, but yeah, with the course that it was, you would lean more maybe to a Ron Haar or a Nieuwhuis, but not to Van der Haar. But Van der Haar kept fighting against Nieuwhuis right to the line, and in the end just had the edge over Nieuwhuis in a spectacular way from Van der Haar. And I think Van der Haar today had everything against him in the race in terms of the circumstances, but Nieuwhuis was not lucky as well with his issues with the pedal, if I'm not mistaken, or the shoe at least. And yeah, I think that in the end, Van der Haar, if you look at the season, definitely the deserved champion. But Nieuwhuis had the day and the circumstances on his side, and who knows if the issues weren't there for Nieuwhuis, what he could have done today.
Yeah, Nieuwhuis had issues with his cleat. It got loose, and well, he was afraid that changing a shoe would have cost him too much time. I can understand that. It's hard to say if he should have done it or not. How much time did it cost him? I don't know. I know that it was a very hard race for Van der Haar. As you say, this is not a course for him with so much running. If both riders would have had a counter for their steps, Van der Haar would have had twice as many steps as Nieuwhuis. Van der Haar was running fast, like tuk 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 tuk. And Nieuwhuis was just making like big steps and going fast, but Van der Haar gave it his everything, and with so much running on the course, also for the men, it was hard, and that's not something that Van der Haar likes. Remember in Dendermonde when he stopped, that's like one of the only times I've seen him give up. The year after, he didn't like it either. He said that I don't have the watts or the length of the legs to do this, what he calls rouwdouwen, which just means push power as hard as you can. And I've seen some critique that Van der Haar sat in the wheel the entire race. I think that's unfair for the simple reason that, one, Van der Haar was absolutely dead. Like, he was hanging on for dear life the entire race. He ultimately had something left in the tank, and that's okay. But on this course, I don't think that sitting in the wheel gives you too much of an advantage. There's so much running. Okay, there was a lot of wind. After the off-camber, when they went up the hill again, that was a headwind section. The start-finish straight was headwind. But for the rest of the course, I don't think that at this speed the draft effect is significant enough that it really made a difference. The mechanical of Nieuwenhuis was unfortunately the decider in this race. Nieuwenhuis said that hampered him, it affected him. I believe him. But also look at Van der Haar. Look how deep he went. So deep that he even fell on the final set of stairs, and then across the finish line he couldn't even celebrate. I mean, normally you would see a rider be super happy with the title. He clearly didn't have the energy. He gave it his absolute everything. And I think after such a demanding race, all riders that are going to Spain can think that they know that they are lucky that they now can get rid of this shit cold weather with rain and some ice coming down in the race, and they can train in the sun again.
Yeah, absolutely. Also in the interview after the race, Van der Haar looked like a dead man. It was it took a lot for him, and like you said, the disadvantage, the way he was running just to keep up with Nieuwhuis. And on a course like this, I mean, sitting in the wheel, there are some sections where you can maybe have some benefit of it, but overall it's you have to push a gear and you have to just try to get through the mud as fast as you can. And it was a very honest course, and if you would decide a winner before the race, you would have said Van der Haar. So I think that he definitely deserved it. If you look at his season, Nieuwhuis for sure deserved it as well, but. Yeah, I think that it was quite a battle till the end, and Van der Haar in the end was just the one that I would say wanted it more and had the circumstances on his side at that moment.
I actually didn't expect he would pull it off already before the race. With that much mud, I was thinking that if Ron Haar had a good day, he would take the title, but I didn't expect Ron Haar to have a good day. I was certainly backing Nieuwenhuis. Ron Haar fell backwards a bit after he was in the leading group in the first part of the race. He ended fourth. He eventually got overtaken by Ryan Kamp, who ended third. Good result for him. Eighth in the overall result was Tibor Del Grosso. He took the men's under 23 title. The women's under-23 title went to Leonie Bentveld, that was awarded in a separate race. The men's junior title in the Netherlands went to Keije Sole, and the women's junior national title went to Lauren Molengraaf. Forgot to mention this in the section about the women's race. Jara Kastelein did not race. She fell in Loenhout and was injured due to that crash there. She is not going to race any cross anymore this season. She will be focusing on the road season. Let's go and talk about the Belgian championships then. There we also had a duel between two riders. The men's race was a battle between Laurens Sweeck and Michael Vanthourenhout. Thibaut Nys eventually ended third, with Iserbyt not having a great day, ending fourth. That battle, Issam, it was decided by one main controversy. Vanthourenhout had a disadvantage in the beginning of the race, as Sweeck had chosen a better pit box. He chose box 1, which had a dry patch where he could hop on his bike. Vanthourenhout had box 4, his mechanics saw the advantage Sweeck had and moved to box 1. That led to them tangling bikes in 3 out of the 6 laps. You watched this race whilst I was on the ground in Zaltbommel. Fill us in, what went down and what did Sweeck have to say about it and what were the dynamics there?
Well, Sweeck was definitely not happy with it, but yeah, in the first lap you could definitely see that when Vanthourenhout had to basically run the whole pit area because they had to dismount just before entering the pit area, Sweeck then could change his bike almost immediately, and there was a dry patch there, so he could, mount on his bike and do the rest riding, while Vanthourenhout had to run basically till his box and then could actually mount on his bike and ride the section. And you can lose there, I think, around 2-3 seconds. And the second lap, immediately his mechanics were already in box 4, and from lap 3 actually it started to become a bit ugly. Especially when Vanthourenhout was leading, it was going to be an issue because Vanthourenhout gives the bike and gets the new bike, but then Sweeck still has to do the two things. So it was definitely not a great look in the last lap. Fortunately, it wasn't an issue, but in the penultimate lap, it definitely played a role, and it made sure that the gap that was kind of merging a little bit, it became a little bit bigger. And on a course like this, especially with Vanthourenhout having the advantage in some of the hill sections, I think, and Sweeck had his advantage in roughly, I would say, like it was a 50-50 course. Vanthourenhout maybe having the edge on this course, but the difference was nothing. It was very close between the riders, and yeah, then you can look into it. Sweeck was not happy with it. He was talking about things like, if you have rules, why are they not implemented? What is going on right now is probably that the sanction is going to be a fine for the mechanic and some sort of a penalty for the mechanic in some way. But, it's, in my opinion, if I can give my opinion on it, it's, rules are rules. And it's weird if somebody, the first lap is all the way at the back and then the second lap is all the way, in fourth box. It's, it was a bit weird, but the Belgium championships never disappoint in those things.
No, there will always be some sort of controversy there, and they're talking about a suspension for the mechanic of Vanthourenhout. But Issam, this is not the first time you and I mentioned some stuff about pit boxes this season. Do you remember Loenhout? I told you. What the mechanics of Pidcock did isn't allowed, but nobody stopped them. And what precedent do you set if you're not going to stop them because it doesn't cause any issues then? Today the exact same thing happened as in Loenhout. One rider makes the better choice, the others see this and then want to respond to that, but it's not allowed because the pit boxes are allocated. You can't just decide to move there. They're allocated to avoid such rush hour in those small boxes. But as in Loenhout, nobody did it, and as in some of the C1 crosses this season, they haven't even been allocated whilst they should be by UCI rules. Who's going to stop you? Nobody is. And if they give this sanction, who cares? Vanthourenhout will pay this fine for his mechanic without any issue. And what does it matter? Nothing. He gets a suspension, it won't be long enough to be of serious effect. And they can just appeal, so it doesn't matter at the World Championships. Vanthourenhout wins the national title, and according to Sweeck, that is because of this incident. And I've watched briefly through this race, and if Sweeck would have the advantage from changing there every lap compared to Vanthourenhout, I think that despite the course leaning towards Vanthourenhout, Sweeck would have won the national title. I don't know if you agree on that, but if he had that advantage that he had in the first lap, every single lap, that's a serious advantage that you get.
That was a very good choice from Sweeck, and the second lap I see it happen. I'm like, how is that possible? But because of like you said, it happened before, and it's something that some mechanics that are more experienced and that know the tricks a little bit would execute, and these kind of things should not be allowed, because the pit areas are already something that is quite chaotic, especially in the first lap, and overall it needs to be a place where riders can change their bike safely without being hampered in any way, So I think that the UCI need to look into a universal rule where it's going to be implemented that the sanction is going to be a bit tougher. It's not that I want now Sweeck to be champion. I think that Vanthourenhout definitely deserves the championship. He was in the penultimate lap the stronger one, and also on the last lap on the hills he was also stronger. But I can understand that with Sweeck there's going to be a lot of frustration during the race that's going to build up. That's not good for an athlete, and you want it to be a fair race. So the rules maybe should be looked at, and yeah, it's a bit of a shame that it ended up in that way, because I think that the battle itself was great and the course was actually not that bad. So it was great to watch, actually.
Yeah, the course today was a lot more rideable than yesterday, and I still think it favored Vanthourenhout a lot, especially this section around the ponton VIP tent. That was quite a bit of running with the barriers in there, and in general with the power I thought it was a Vanthourenhout course. I was actually surprised that Sweeck came so close to the national title. And just to finalize on that sanction, I mean, the sanction on the mechanics won't change anything, because they will take the sanction because it's a serious benefit for their riders. Vanthourenhout can thank his mechanics, but it doesn't change, as you say, that Vanthourenhout rode a very strong race. He, in the end, in the final lap when they came together, had the upper hand and was able to drop Sweeck. And it's a crown on what really is the best season out of the career of Michael Vanthourenhout. He is kind of doing a season like Lars van der Haar did last year. Like, he doesn't win all too much. I mean, he got these 2 gifted exact cross wins in the beginning of the season, but he then wins like the championship, national championship, European championship, 2 beautiful World Cups with Overijs and Val di Sol, and then the Belgian national championship. Reminds me a lot of what Lars van der Haar did last season, and he deserves that. I mean, he's also not the youngest anymore. He's becoming 30 at the end of this year, so it's about time that he starts getting these results and puts a crown on his career and doesn't always be the second man in the Paul Sousa team. So I definitely like to see him get the national title, and he deserves it based on his season. It's just a shame that the tactical upper hand that Sweeck had by making a correct pitbox choice didn't eventually make a difference for him, but it is what it is, and they will need to, deal with it and race again next week, or actually tomorrow even. Sweeck is racing already again in Otegem. We'll see Elie Iserbyt line up there again, so to finish on the Belgian Championships. Thibaut Nys in third. Strong performance, and a bit unexpected. I mean, maybe would have expected Iserbyt to end third, but on the other hand, the story for Iserbyt was kind of writing itself already. The past couple of races it went better, and all of a sudden they were like, yeah, Iserbyt, very good shot at the Belgian title. Then the course doesn't really suit him, and in general I didn't really expect Iserbyt to take the Belgian title. I told you, I don't think Iserbyt can keep a consistent line towards the end of the season, and despite some good races in the Christmas period, I just didn't see it happening. But Thibaut Nys in third, I didn't really see that one coming either, based on his Christmas period, because he only really started going again with that win in Zonhoven.
Yeah, I mean, with Iserbyt, the first lap crash didn't help. Then he had some issues with the wrist, and yeah, from there it's going to be difficult to to make up some ground, and he probably had some issues with his wrist. For me, it was a surprise that he kept on riding, because the way he was riding, especially after that crash, was a bit worrying. I thought that was going to be it for him, but he kept on going, and then the race is basically over, and we never really know if he was going to be able to battle for the title, but yeah, it's never a good thing. He was making some mistakes already in the first lap. His start was okay, but it was not great. And then it's you end up in a situation where you maybe have to take some more risks, and then you have the crash, and it goes wrong for him. In the end, still finishes fourth, but you have nothing. You achieve nothing being fourth or third. I mean, for Thibaut Nys, that third place is definitely gonna taste a little bit better, because he started very well, very aggressive at the start, and from there on, because of the crash with Iserbyt, he kind of was in a position where, he lost connection with Vanthourenhout and Sweeck, but he was in a position where he had a gap of like 10-15 seconds on the guys behind, and that was then, at that moment, was the closest, I think, was Jens Adams. And from there, Nys, what I normally would think that it was not going to be a consistent race from him, it was consistent compared to the guys behind him, and he kept his cool, was able to do his thing, and I think that for him it's definitely a very positive result, because Nys this season, especially in the last couple of races, it's never been very consistent, has some back issues, so I think for him it's definitely a reward and also for him a confirmation that the form is definitely there, and if everything is going well in the race, then he can definitely achieve very good results, and today I think he can cherish this third place very much.
Then the women's race in Belgium that was raced yesterday, so on Saturday, a day before the men's race. That was won by Sanne Cant, who claimed her 14th consecutive national title ahead of Ribeiro and Alicia Frank. They raced in a lot more mud, rain. The conditions were more treacherous than during the men's race, but the race was not super entertaining, as Cant pretty much dominated from start to finish, partly helped by Ribeiro having mechanicals, but we would never have known what could have happened. I mean, Ribeiro put in a furious second lap and came as close as 32 seconds from 55, but Cant was never really put under pressure. She was in control and then, took the win. It's her last cross of the season already. I think it's marking a shift in priorities for Sanne Cant, because she says, well, a top 5 or a top 10 at Worlds, I don't care if I don't get a medal based on my palmarès, and that is maybe a bit true, but remember way back, when we were at the Kralon Freestads team presentation, Cant said, I'm a full-time crosser, I want to focus still on cross, I enjoy it, but now she's skipping this in function of her road season. I think this is marking an end to an era of Sanne Cant as full-time cross rider, and that's maybe not bad, because in cross she isn't getting the results, whilst on road as lead out or sprinter in some of the smaller races she's still doing very good and improving.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the shift, it kind of showed when she gave a lot of races away, some races away, to focus completely on the Belgium Championships, and I think that maybe this season wasn't what she expected from it at the start, and maybe during the season it kind of was it kind of was a natural choice to be looking more to the road than to the cross, I guess, and I think it's a very legitimate choice. She has now a team where she can race at a very, very high level on the road with the women's category, and I think for her, there's a lot of potential from her side, and I definitely do agree that is for her, I guess, now the best choice. And the championships is always something special for Sanne, and for sure with the record that she has right now, 14 consecutive wins, that's something that is very good. But I guess she's looking at the record of Compton right now.
Yeah, perhaps, but we don't know. Next year the Belgian Championships are back in Meulenbeke. She took the title there earlier. It's a cross that suits her, so I think she'll just try and get another title there, but I don't know if she's too focused on that record, and who knows what's coming through, because the junior women's title went to Fleur Moors, I don't think it will be all too long before Fleur Moore surpasses Sanne Cant in terms of level. Moore is maybe not the best rider in the junior women's category. That is probably Molegraaf, who took the win in the Netherlands today, but it can't take long with Cant, well, declining a little bit. And, well, the women's under-23 title went to Julie Brouwers, with the men's under-23 title going to Wietse Meuse. Bit of a weird championship that, since Belgium has a rule that male riders with a pro contract, which is just a certain amount of salary that you receive, need to race in the elite race. That's why Jente Michels, Thibaut Nys, etc. raced in the elite race. So Meuse took the win in the men's under-23 race, and the men's junior title went to Victor van den Bergen. Let's go and talk about some other championships in Europe then. Let's start in France, where Clément Venturini took back the national title. No surprises, for me at least. The course was fast. He was locked in a battle with Dubé, another road rider, and despite Venturini not having the best season, or at least as good as last season, he cracked Dubé on the final climb. Joshua Dubois, who was very good last season, doesn't really have it this season, and the fast course really didn't play into his cards. He had to settle for third. So Venturini with the win, not a surprise for me. How did you think about that, Issam?
With the French men's category at the moment, the state that it's at, it's, Venturini is definitely still the better cyclocross rider with the course. Yeah, I think that it is not really a surprise. Dubois, last season was definitely a very good season for Venturini as well, but I think this year, while Venturini is not having, a season that is on the same level as was last year, it's definitely not bad, and it's for him at the moment enough to be the best in France. So I think that there are not really that much surprises there in the French Championship.
The women's race might have a bit of a surprising winner based on the overall season. Helene Clauzel took the win ahead of Lynn Burquet and Perrine Clauzel. But again, looking at the course, this was not a course for Lynn Burquet. It was way too fast. She was on the back foot almost the entire race and came relatively close still in the sprint, but ultimately it wasn't to be. She was the first French under-23 rider, although I don't know if they awarded a separate title for that. There was a separate race for the men under 23. That race was won by Martin Gros-Lambert. He won ahead of Nathan Beaumenel. The men's junior race was won by Leo Bissiot, and the women's race was won by Lise Kleijs. Then some more racing in Europe. In the UK, there was an absolute mudfest, even worse than in the Netherlands. No real surprises there. The men's elite race was won by Cameron Mason, 2.5 minutes ahead of Joseph Blackmore and Thomas Mean. That is not a surprise. Mason has been the best Brit, in absence of Pidcock, of course. And on such a course, the gaps are just absolutely huge. Joseph Blackmore, ending second, did take the under-23 title, with our own Jensen Young ending third on that podium. The women's race, which was won by Zoe Backstedt, was also not really a surprise, seeing her take the win in both the elite as under-23 category, since that course was muddy and basically her only opposition, Anna Kay, who would have lost out anyway, is still out injured. The men's junior race was won by Seb Grindy, who rides for our own cyclocross racing team, and the women's junior race was won by Imogen Wolf. In Spain, also no real surprises there. Felipe Orts dominated the men's race and took the win ahead of Joffre Curel Estap. Bit of surprise to see him in second instead of Kevin Suarez Fernandez, who normally ended there. The women's race was won by Lucia Gonzalez Blanco ahead of Sofia Rodriguez Rever and Alba Teruel Ribes. It's worth noting here that Gonzalez Blanco has been Spanish champion for quite a while now, only won by 5 seconds ahead of Rodriguez Rever, and it's indicating that whilst Rodriguez Rever is still relatively young, 24, Gonzalez Blanco is becoming older and older, and looks to be that eventually Rodriguez Rever will take that title. There was also racing in Italy, no broadcast, so we can't really say anything about that. Filippo Fontana took the win ahead of Davide Toneatti and Jacob Dorigoni. Fortunately, we haven't seen much from Dorigoni and Bertolini this season. The women's race was won by Silvia Persico ahead of Rebecca Garibaldi and Francesca Baroni. Then we can move to Switzerland. There were some surprises there on the men's side at least. Timon Ruek took the national title ahead of Lars Forster and Kevin Kuhn. Kuhn, completely exploded in the second part of the race. He was leading but blew up and even got passed by Forster. Ruek taking the win. Bit of a surprise, of course. Not as big as a surprise if Kuhn would have ended second, but still surprising to see Kuhn end third. But Issam, I guess, if you have a bad day, things can go, rapid. It wasn't as muddy as the Dutch races we saw, but still, if you race on a climbing course, which they had in men's Metten, it's going to be tough if you have a bad day.
Yeah, indeed. And, I think a bit of a shame for Kevin, because I think that's, Kuhn was definitely this season, having a very, very strong season with quite some good results. But if there was definitely one that could take over from Kuhn in the championship, if Kuhn did have a bad day, it was going to be Rueg. So, Rueg this season definitely also is going quite well, and it's it's on the day that it matters maybe the most for both guys. Rueg was just having the upper hand and is going to ride in that very iconic Swiss jersey, and we now have to look a little bit more for Kevin Kuhn, but I don't think that will be an issue that much with his Stormans jersey.
The women's race in Switzerland was won by Alessandra Keller ahead of Rebecca Esterman and Zina Baromi. There was also racing in Denmark, where the mountain biker Sebastian Karsten Fini took the win in the men's race, and the women's race was won by Caroline Bohet, who is also a mountain bikester. There was racing in Luxembourg, no surprises there. Schreiber took the win in the women's race. The men's race was won by Rafael Kokkelman. There was racing in Poland. Marek Konwa, he extended his subscription on the Polish national title with Dominika Wlodarczyk. Probably mispronounced that, but she took the women's title. There was racing in Japan, where Hirji Oda took the national title together with Sa Ogawa. Racing in Ireland, where Dean Harvey took the men's title and Maria Larkin took the women's title. There was racing in Austria, where Daniel Federspiegel took the win, with Natja Heigl taking the women's title. Then there was racing in Hungary, where Marton Dina took the Hungarian title. Funny to see him race. And the women's race, surprise, was won by Catablanca Vash. Disappointing result by her, as she only had 2 minutes advantage and, unlike last year, did not succeed in lapping almost the entire field.
Disappointing.
No surprises there. Vash probably took it very easy, showboating, doing a wheelie. I even saw her racing in like a long sleeve kit. It was just a training stroll for her. There was also racing in the Czech Republic. Actually, how did I miss that one? Michael Boros took the title in the men's race, and that race was broadcasted, unfortunately, only the men's race, but it wasn't too interesting, with Boros taking the win ahead of Matthias Kopecki and Jakob Riemann. The women's race was won by Kristina Zemanova ahead of Julia Kopecki and Nikola Bazirova. Looks like the Kopecki family returned to the Netherlands with 2 silver medals. Then there was racing in Portugal. This was a bit of a weird race. I saw an onboard lap. The course looked absolutely stunning, but it was more of a road race than anything else. Roberto Ferreira took the win in the men's race, and the women's race was won by Ana Mafalda Sá Santos. That then marks the end for, a lot of national championships. I think roughly 15 in total. Most of them not broadcasted or not really noteworthy to discuss all too much that happened there, but those are the new national championships. A complete overview of all new national champions can be found on our Instagram. Issam, thank you for being here to discuss this again.
Thank you for having me, and now we enter a very important period for the World Championships, huh?
Yeah, but first, tomorrow, racing in Otegem. No podcast on that. It's C2 cross, and we don't cover C2 crosses that are being streamed in other countries either, so no one for Otegem. it's basically just money grabbing for the new national champions or whatever. But you're going to Benidorm, so I look forward to next week when we'll be covering the World Cup in Benidorm. Return of a preview podcast for that, and then Issam will bring you the latest from the ground in Benidorm. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Ciao, ciao.